ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति। We are reading the text, Thesis on God.
Thesis on God. Preface. From time immemorial, the human race has accepted the word God without question, and it has become an integral part of the society. None dare question its authenticity, its authority. Consequently, several religious faiths and factions have sprouted around the world. The apparent disparity in them has caused dissent and dispute amongst the people and has gradually engulfed the world in hatred and bitterness to a point of international warfare. The cumulative effect of the unquestioned acceptance of God has caused an avalanche of diverse faiths, all springing from a fundamental misconception of God. Who is God? Now, the thought of questioning God is regarded sacrilegious, blasphemous, which has led to a total impasse in the understanding of the true nature of God. And a complacency has set in on the subject of God and remained in the human minds for ages. The mass of humanity is fanatically attached to their own image of God. Ironically, they entertain little doubt in their beliefs. In the words of Joss Billings, the trouble with most folks is not so much their ignorance as their knowing so many things which ain't so. The thesis offers adequate literature to combat this complacency among human beings and their strange vision of God. The literature should help a spiritual seeker to launch on a thorough analytical study to get to know the nature of God. His state of being is eternal, all-pervading, infinite. God is no person. God is said to be the unmanifest supreme reality supporting the manifest world. Akin to the deep unmanifest ocean manifesting as waves on the surface, God is the one consciousness, pure and immaculate, appearing as manifold conditioned conscious beings in the world, like the sun above appearing as several reflections below. Different religions affirm that God is the one self within beings, the self that enlivens the body to perceive and act, the mind to feel emotions, and the intellect to conceive thoughts. The self, however, remains a sakshi, a detached witness of all activities of the body, mind, and intellect. The role of self in human beings is similar to that of petrol in vehicles. No vehicle can move without petrol, yet petrol has no desire to go anywhere nor a desire to avoid going. So too, none can act or perceive, feel, or think without the self. But the self entertains no desire to perform any form of activity, nor a desire to refrain from it. One car meets with an accident and destroys the inmates, while another is used to save lives. But petrol cannot be held responsible for either. So it is with God, the self within. A terrorist destroys while a benevolent person serves and sacrifices for others. The self is the activating principle in both. But the self is not responsible for either action. Yet people blame or praise God for whatever happens. God is the supreme reality. Reality is that which persists in all periods of time, past, present, and future. That which exists in the present, not before or after, is not considered as real. The waking, dream, and deep sleep that one goes through in life do not stand the test of reality, but self does, as it pervades the three states and beyond. The non-apprehension of the reality projects the misapprehensions of the three illusory states of the waking, dream, and deep sleep, just as the non-apprehension of a rope projects the misapprehension of an illusory snake. The knowledge of the rope alone can remove that illusion. Likewise, through apprehension of reality, knowledge of self alone, do you transcend waking, dream, and deep sleep and reach the fourth state known as Turiya. You attain the state of Godhood. Hence, you cannot perceive, feel, or comprehend God. You can only reach God by merging with the fourth state of Godhood, just as a river merges with the ocean. You become God, a Parthasarathi.
It's everything. The preface. Introducing the book, the contents of the book, and what is it that we are studying. So, introduction is continuing still. The preface. The word God, the concept God is very unique. Of all the words and the concepts that a human being interacts with, uses, God is very different. God is very unique. What is the uniqueness of this word? That's how he started. What is the uniqueness of this word? God is one being whom one doesn't know, yet one has something to say about it. You're able to follow? One doesn't know, and yet one has something to say about it, be dogmatic about it, be assertive about it, and murder and slaughter also. Oh, no other word or no other concept can No other word, no other concept can have this kind of effect on the human personality in the way that this word God has. This is something that you cannot avoid. This is something that you cannot escape. This is something that you don't know either. At the same time, no. At the same time, not a proper inquiry is also done. And yet, this is what Josh Billings says. What is the quote of Josh Billings? He referred to the quote. Josh, what is that quote? God is one being whom one doesn't know. Nobody knows that. And yet, one always has something to say about it. One doesn't know what love is, and yet everybody has. Nobody knows what love is, and yet everybody has something to say about it. So, when you do not know it, and when you are saying something about it, what is it called? You do not know anything about it, and yet when you say something about it, what is it called? There is a fundamental difference between ignorance and foolishness. This is the difference. Ignorance is where you don't know and you say, I don't know. Foolishness is where you don't know and yet you have something to, and yet you will have something to say about it. The problem of humanity is not ignorance. The problem of humanity is foolishness. So whenever in Vedanta we use the word ignorance, it is used more in the sense of, it is used more in the sense of foolishness. You do not know it, and yet you believe you know it. Hmm? So you find this very word God. A atheist who says there is no God, ask him what is his God. He says there is no God in the way that he has conceived of God. In the way he believes in God, he says there is no such God. What is his God? The gods who created the planets, the God who created the world, the God who did this, the God who did. Now, even an atheist, when he says, I don't believe in God, his belief is not about God per se. He says, I don't believe in God based on some knowledge that he has gained already, which is not verified, inquired. Are you able to follow? So even when the atheist says there is no God, so you ask him, what is your concept of God? That you are saying there is no God. God is the creator of the world, sitting somewhere in heaven. He brought the whole thing out. He is protecting it, and then one day he will swallow it also. Oh, this kind of God. Now, even when he says, I don't believe in God, he's saying, I don't believe in God in the way that he said, there is no God in the way that I don't, in the way that I have believed God to be. This is what I think God is, and that God I don't believe in. Vedanta, the literature here, takes a different approach. Vedanta, the literature here takes a different approach. In fact, this is the approach it takes towards any subject. And thesis on God is a beautiful, the core of Vedanta, the essence of Vedanta, the methodology of Vedanta, the science and logic and reason of Vedanta, all evolved out of this one inquiry. What is this inquiry? God. The science of logic, reasoning, what we call as Tarka, Nyaya, Mimamsa, all these evolved for what? To do this inquiry on one question. What is that inquiry on one question? What is God? And from time immemorial, human beings have accepted this thing called God without questioning. So it is called vichara. It is an inquiry. You go through the inquiry, take all the concepts of God that is known, that is presented to you, analyze it, and then come to some kind of a rational conclusion. Not in the way that you accept God without questioning, authenticity, authority. What is the authority for God? Who is the authority for God? Grandmother, sir. Who is the authority for God? Grandmother. Ignorant grandmother, drunken grandfather. They are the authority on God. The temple there is the authority on God. I know, sir. I was praying that, so much in need of one oxygen cylinder, and suddenly somebody came and left the oxygen cylinder at my doorstep and went. That person who kept the oxygen cylinder is God. Doctor said, get 6 vials of remdesivir. What is it called? I don't even know how to pronounce it. You are running pillar to post in all your social media. You are posting in the Facebook. You are posting in Instagram. You are posting, short of giving advertisement in the newspaper. That's all. Only thing is that advertisement didn't come in the newspaper as yet, and then suddenly you get that is God, sir. What is the concept of God? And yet, it's not a subject matter of speculation. God is not a subject matter for speculation. God is not a subject matter of faith. God is something that ought to be inquired. Why it ought to be inquired? Because it is such an integral part of your life. Whether you admit or not, whether you like it or not, God is an integral part of your life in the form of saying yes or in the form of saying no. You may be a theist or you may be an atheist, but whether you are a theist or an atheist, God becomes an integral part of your life. And more so in times of helplessness, more so in times of desperation, more so in times of hopelessness, God becomes more focused. God becomes much more. The concept of God differs from person to person. The concept of God differs from religion to religion. If at all there is a God, why there is so much of difference in how people view it, understand it? Hmm? The answer is very clear. What is the answer? God is one being whom no one knows anything about, and yet everybody has something to say about it. When you do not know, and when you do not know, and when you say something about it, it is called, it is not called ignorance, it is called foolishness. Bhajagovindam, 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 Mudamate, foolishness. Pramodaha, Vimudaha. So the whole Shastra is addressed to a foolish person. The whole knowledge is addressed to the foolish person, because to educate an ignorant person is easy. To teach an ignorant person is very, very easy. The problem is you cannot educate the foolish person. And you need to know the difference between the ignorant one and the foolish one. Who is the fool? The fool is one who thinks he knows when he actually doesn't know. Who is a fool? A fool is one who thinks he knows when he actually doesn't know. And ignorant is one who knows he doesn't know and is open for. Ignorant is one who knows that he doesn't know and is open for inquiry. For learning can happen only through inquiry. Learning cannot happen through memorizing. Learning can happen through inquiry. Therefore, he says this book provides enough literature. There is enough literature this book carries to inquire about God. Technically, it is called pramana, authority. In fact, authority is a very poor translation. Actually, it doesn't mean authority. A means of knowledge that is independent and self-proving. A means of knowledge that is independent and self-proving. So first we have established that we have to inquire. First thing is we have established that we have to inquire. What are we doing? We are inquiring. Atma Bodha is about this inquiry. Thesis on God is about this inquiry. Bhagavad Gita is about this inquiry. So all the textbook, all Vedantic textbooks are about inquiry. When you inquire, two things are needed. What are the two things that is needed for an inquiry? What are the two things that is needed for an inquiry? The material and the relevant instrument. You need the material and you need the relevant instrument. The material is given, the relevant instrument is there. What is the relevant instrument? The buddhi, the intellect. What is the relevant instrument? The buddhi, the intellect. It's called, the literature is called pramana. Pramana very loosely is translated as authority. Strictly speaking, it doesn't mean authority. Pramana is that which is instrumental in giving knowledge. That's a beautiful word, pramana. That's why we say Satya Pramanam and all, they say, no. It's not a promise. What is pramana? Pramana means that which is instrumental in giving knowledge. Then comes the inquiry. What are all the various ways in which you gain knowledge? Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Agama. So there is a relevant instrument, there is a relevant area of knowledge. Only when both combines, you get the right knowledge. The word pramana is a combined word. It's not a single word. Prama, ma means knowledge. When it is suffixed with ana, it means karanam, the instrument. கொஞ்சம் லிட்டில் பிட் ஏன்னா தீசிஸ் ஆன் ஆத்மபோதா படிக்கும்போது கொஞ்சம் டெக்னிக்கலாக போகிறோம். when we study thesis on God, we need to go more, more deeper. That's why we take this book. It's an Upanishad, because the subject matter is only about God. We are not talking, this book doesn't talk about anything else except it is an Upanishad. Yeah. It has the status of the Upanishad. It means we need to know little bit of the methodology, what are all the formulas and techniques that is involved in going into this book, and then we read the book, it becomes, the way in which you see the book itself will be very different. That's why I am giving this. Yeah. Another introduction. Yeah. Venkat. Atmabodha class faster pochinu nenikiren. Yeah. Atmabodha verses went faster, I think. Here it is not even. So to inquire, so he's saying that it is inquiry. If it is inquiry, you need, if it is inquiry, it means the knowledge. So the instrument, the relevant instrument and the relevant area of applying the instrument. The relevant area of applying the instrument. So Prama literally means knowledge. Prama comes from the root word ma, it means knowledge. And then when it is suffixed with ana, it means karana. So pramana means what? That which is instrumental in giving knowledge. And what are the two things that you need to gain knowledge? The material, the object outside, the relevant instrument inside. The object outside and the relevant instrument inside. So when the object and the relevant instrument is combined rightly, you get the right knowledge. So what is inquiry? Combine that. Use the right object and the right instrument. That is the that is the inquiry. That is the entire study. Using the instrument inside and the relevant object. அது ரெண்டும் சேர்ந்ததுன்னா it becomes pramanam. So prama plus ana becomes pramana. Beautiful word, this pramanam is. Why I am saying all this is because it says this book gives adequate literature. So he's saying it is a pramana. He's using the word pramana. He doesn't use it directly. So much of it is hidden, and we are trying to uncover as much as we could. So every instrument has a respective field of knowledge. Another important thing. So first we have established the relevant instrument and the relevant object of knowledge. Then we go deeper and say every instrument has a specific area of inquiry where others cannot do. Each means of knowledge is independent and self-proving. Again, I repeat. Each means of knowledge is independent and they are self-proving. For instance, take Pratyaksha Pramana, the eyes and the ears. Take Pratyaksha Pramana, the eyes and the ears, the perception. The knowledge that the eyes provide the ears cannot provide. Conversely, the information that the ears provide, the eyes cannot provide. Also, carefully follow. Also, what is understood by inference is not available for perception at the time of inference. Again, I'm repeating. Sir, why are you confusing us so much, sir? Yeah. They are confusing us so much. Pramanamna, if you have to digest the book as an authority, you need to have this. You need to know this. You need to know how scientific this Vedanta is. How deep they have gone into this. So, what is understood by inference is not available for perception. For if it is available for perception, inference is not required at all. So that which is anumanam is not pratyaksha. That which is pratyaksha is not anumanam. So similarly, there are these branches of knowledge. And then we have seen that all inquiry falls under the four categories. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Shabda. They fall under these four categories. And the thesis on God falls under which category? Not Pratyaksha, not Anumana, not Upamana. Why? Because it is going to talk about something which other instruments cannot access, conceive. Therefore, they become an independent and self-proven authority. Self-proven means what is seen by the eyes are the authority. Maybe your eyes are somebody's eyes, but nevertheless, eyes are the authority. That which is seen, that which is proven by the eyes, that which you see by the eyes, the proof of it is the very eye itself. What I saw, the color and form, you take the support of the ears to substantiate color and form. Is that possible? Eyes la color and form. To substantiate color and form, you cannot take the support of the ears. To substantiate the shabda, the sound, you cannot take the support of the skin, any other instrument. Therefore, this literature provides relevant pramanam. It means what? God is the object of inquiry here. Who is the subject that is inquiring that? The intellect. You, the individual. When we say you, the individual, what all you cannot use? What is the only thing that you can use? The intellect. So you, using your intellect, inquire about God. And to inquire, you have to take the material from the past. Otherwise, you will be reinventing the wheel again and again and again. Therefore, what is the important aspect of inquiry here? The instrument is the buddhi. The subject matter of inquiry is God. Material. You use the material that is exclusively designed for that. You don't use any other material to do this inquiry. Here we are being very objective and rational. Are you able to follow this point? Here only we are being very objective and rational. Why? Because we are using the relevant instrument, and we are using the relevant instrument, and the relevant instrument must use the relevant material. That material that the buddhi uses to inquire about God is Vedanta. The material which the buddhi uses to inquire about God is called Vedanta. So what they do first, are you able to follow the step by step by step? I'm going step by step by step. And what the Vedas does first, Vedanta does first, how you cannot use any other instrument is negated first, is proven first. How you cannot use other instruments. Are you able to follow? That is established first. What are the other instruments that cannot use? You can't use the senses, you can't use the mind, you can't use the gross intellect. So what all cannot be used is negated. Negated means it is proven that it is not the relevant instrument that will be useful in the inquiry. Swamiji used to give this example. For a wristwatch, you have to repair a wristwatch and you have to repair the locomotive. The spanner that you use for locomotive cannot be used for the wristwatch. That which is used to repair the wristwatch cannot be used for fixing the locomotive. Therefore, very important is to know the right thing that you have to use. And what they do, what all the wrong things that we have been using till now, they say it doesn't help you. And when they say it doesn't help you, it looks like they are, it appears as though Vedanta is attacking, demeaning, insulting, ridiculing, making fun of. One ignorant person will make fun of another ignorant person. You know that, no? A wise person will never make fun of. Why will he do that? Who will make fun of you? Only somebody at your level or below. The person who is grown above you will not make fun of you. Why will they do that? And yet it is seen as an attack. And yet it is seen as an insult. And yet it is seen as this. That is why I have heard any number of people coming and telling me, sir, enna pesnam sir, in the Vedanta la bhakti na illave illa sir. No bhakti at all. Adum that too, sir, in your classes, no is zero. So it is not really helping, sir. Bhakti varnala, sir. Bhakti must come, no? From where it will come? Use the relevant instrument and allow that instrument to develop bhakti. Don't use the wrong instrument and say, this is bhakti and that bhakti I want. Vedanta will say, that kind of bhakti is not bhakti at all, but we don't agree with it. Doesn't matter. The truth doesn't change. Are you able to follow? So important is the material, the instrument, the object of inquiry, the instrument, and the material. When you know all these, you will not fall under this Josh Billings category. You will fall under this Josh Billings category. What is the Josh Billings category? The trouble with most folks is not so much their ignorance as their knowing so many things which ain't so. Trouble with people is not their ignorance. The trouble with people is they know. They know. That is why a child like innocence is required to inquire. When the child asks the question at the age of 8, 9, 10, it is just asking the question. It is so easy to teach. When a 50-year-old person asking that question, you say, "Apparama 2 weeks kaichu phone pannugo," I will say. Yeah, why? After 2 weeks, I will not call about it. Impossible to. Why? Because they know already. Are you able to follow? When the child asks the question, who created this world? God. Oh. Where was God before he created? Where was who created heaven? God created heaven. Where was God before he created heaven? Obviously, God has to be in hell, no? Because in heaven he can't create heaven sitting in heaven. It means it is already created. So it means sitting in hell, God created heaven. You can easily answer the child. You can easily answer the child. You can easily educate the child. Child means an inquiry supported by an element of innocence. That is Shraddha. That element of innocence is what is called as Shraddha. Inquiry is there and Shraddha is also there. In the case of an adult, there is no inquiry at all. Even if anybody is inquiring, they really don't inquire. All that they are asking for is, nobody actually inquires. All that everybody is asking for is some quick fix method. My mind is agitated. Yeah, I am disturbed. I am depressed. I am sad. I am frustrated. I am agitated. What should I do? What is the answer? You can't do anything. Just go through that. For how long? However long it is. But then you can't give that answer. So you have to say, go to the temple and do this every Tuesday evening, 3:30, Rahu Kala, go and do that. Go there at 12:30 in the midnight and do this. Something you have to say. And the person also believes that doing is not helping the person to solve the problem. All that is happening is what? 9 weeks you have to do. 13 weeks you have to do. And that 13 weeks, even if you miss 1 week, what will happen? Yes, he's giving the right answer. Yeah. We have to start all over again. You know what does it mean? Just by sheer time, he'll set all of that. Buy time. How to buy time? Every Tuesday, 3:30 you go. Every Friday, 6 o'clock you go. That is not inquiry. That is not inquiry. What is inquiry? What is inquiry? Inquiry is where you do not know and you are open to any answer and willing to probe into the answer, digest it and accept. That is called inquiry. That's why I'm saying, that's why I said before, even the person like an atheist who says, I don't believe in God, what is he actually doing? When he says, I don't believe in God, he is dismissing his concept of God. And you ask him this question, which God are you talking about? When you say, I don't believe in God, in which God are you talking about? You can't say, I don't believe in consciousness. No. You can't say, I don't believe in consciousness, because for consciousness is not a matter of belief or not belief. Consciousness is a matter of you experiencing it now. Are you able to follow? So when you say, I believe in God, I don't believe in God, which God are you talking about? The God who sits in heaven and dropped all these planets, created so much of pain and misery in life. created this COVID-19 wave 1, wave 2, Abhada, wave 2 and Mudilla, and then they are saying wave 3 is going to come. Yeah. Just put one bomb and wipe out the whole. I don't believe in that God. Vedanta will turn back and ask, is that God? Vedanta is not saying that is not God. Vedanta turns back and says, is that God? Yes. How do you know it? This is what is said in that book. This is what is said by the temple priest. This is what is said by my grandmother. This is what is told by my neighbor. Are they an authority on God? Of course, sir. They are the authority. Then you belong to the category of Josh. Then you belong to the category of Josh Billings. Yeah. Technology ki, the authority of technology is not my grandmother. In fact, I myself is not the authority on technology because I just don't understand that. I just don't understand. And I also use all the fancy gadgets only to show I have it. I really don't know how to use it. Swati keeps on telling me about waste. Waste. I say, why? Because you don't use. Take a picture, I will immediately give the phone to that person. Please take. Yeah. Now, by the time I figure out where the camera is, now, who is an authority on the subject? Not me. Why? Because I do not. I have no clue to what the technology is, and yet I am accepted as the authority in technology. What would you call that person? What would you call the person who thinks he is an authority? What would you call that person? Blind. What would you call that person who has accepted me as the authority? Another blind. And now comes the beautiful conclusion of the Upanishad. Blind leading the blind. Blind leading the blind. Blind leading the blind. So, how can the entire humanity be blind? Wherever there are numbers, it is blind. More the numbers, it is blinding. Take it or leave it. It's a law. More the numbers, it has to be blind. Why? Because to inquire without knowing whether it's just an inquiry, not utility-driven inquiry. When the child asks, what is God? The child is not worried about the child having a problem and God is the solution to that problem. Liberal education and servile education. Vedanta, Pramana is that which follows the science of liberal education. What is the science of liberal education? Inquiry without utility. Utility comes later. Definitely all knowledges will find its utility. But when you are inquiring, utility is not the inquiry. Just the inquiry is just the spirit of inquiry. And impossible for an adult to digest that there could be a state like this, where you can just inquire without any, where you could inquire about anything without any purpose or utility. For we are all grown-ups, we are all wise. Grown-up wise means what is the first question? What is the purpose, sir? What is the benefit? What is the purpose? Unless a purpose is told, the person is not. Unless a purpose is given, unless the purpose is told, the person is not. And that individual is not using the right relevant instrument for inquiry, and that person will never gain and that person will never gain knowledge. So when we are inquiring about thesis on God, we are not trying to find God as a solution to our problems. It's an intellectual complacency. He says the theses offer adequate literature to combat this complacency among human beings and their strange vision of God. And Vedanta doesn't offer any such strange visions, but it negates all your wrong concepts. But sir, it is said in the Vedas, no? But then the same Vedas only. It is said in the Vedas, no, sir. And yet it is the same Vedas that say it is not. It is not true either. Literature means pramanam. Literature means pramanam. And pramanam means using the relevant instrument under the guidance of, you use the relevant instrument under the guidance. That is very important. You use the instrument under the guidance. Just as, even though you know the syllabus for medical college, even though you know the syllabus for medical degree, you take the syllabus under guidance. You don't do it by yourself. And today, the biggest problem of today is when it comes to religion and the higher, nobler, subtler things of life, everybody wants to do it by themselves, and everybody is an authority. Everybody is an authority. Anything in life can be dealt through right understanding. Life itself can be dealt only through right understanding. It is not about acceptance or dismissing. It is not about acceptance or dismissing. It is the right. And everybody will have some concept of God and something to say. Still remember, long back, after that, I kind of stopped going out with this. I was sitting in the flight, waiting to catch the flight. I heard two people talking, and I knew that they are talking about me only. And the comment is, see, what all a man will do for grabbing attention. See, what all a man will do for grabbing attention. And what I was doing to grab attention, thing I was doing. Yeah, I wasn't dancing. Yeah, I wasn't, nothing I was doing. I was wearing the dhoti and kurta and mala and sitting, that's all. Not in this country, some other place. People have to make judgments. You all make judgments without proper inquiry. That's what leads to foolishness. He said foolishness, no? Now, how does a human being become a fool? people have to make judgments, snap. In a quick split second, they make judgment. And then that judgment becomes the pramanam for them. They make judgment, and that judgment becomes the pramanam, and the judgment becomes the pramanam. A person knowing how to live life means a person who doesn't fall under this mistake. A person who doesn't do this, person who doesn't do this, and especially when it comes to something called religion, what you need to understand, inquiry is bound by a laws, principles. அது எப்படி சொல்றது? Because whenever I say laws, I myself is hearing it as LOSS, where I want to say LAWS. How do you say the law in the right manner? Correct, I'm சொல்றது pronunciation. The law. Inquiry is always bound by. Inquiry means it has to be. It has to be directed by a laws, principles. Then only it is an inquiry. And inquiry is not just mere assertions. Inquiry is not mere irrational conclusions. Inquiry is not what you feel about it. I feel this is love, sir. It's not what you feel. Yeah. No, sir, it is about what I feel. Now you are thinking you are a pramanam. For you, you are the pramanam. For you, you think you are the authority. Are you able to see the difference? So, inquiry. And what is inquiry? Inquiry comes through and elaborating certain laws. There are certain laws, and the laws are many and varied, but all of them lead to a proper single conclusion. The laws are many, the laws are varied, the conclusions can't be many and varied. For example, you can reduce the entire universe to mathematical equations. The entire universe, the functioning of the entire universe can be reduced to mathematical equations. All our calculations, you do something here, something happens there. All this can be a mathematical. You can have differing standpoints based on these equations. You can have differing, carefully follow. You can have differing standpoints based on this equation. But one thing is clear. What? But one thing is clear. The conclusion. What is the conclusion it is leading to? That those differing viewpoints are called tarka, nyaya, mimamsa. Logic, reason, analysis. You can have different viewpoints which are all nothing but tarka, mimamsa, nyaya. What are the laws? The human being is made up of a body, a mind, an intellect. Body is made up of these. Mind is made up of these. The intellect is made up of these. What is the body? The body is capable of growing. The body is capable of growing into adulthood. And in that process of growing into adulthood, it is subject to aging. From infancy to teenager nale? Aging, no. You're able to follow? From infancy to teenager itself is aging. From teenager to middle age is growing old. Huh? At what point of time can you call it as growing old? At what point of time you call it as growth? At what point of time you call it as getting old? So you understand what? Capable of growing into adulthood and is subject to aging, and that something which is aging passes away. That something which is aging does pass away. So when I look at it, it is a law. Are you able to follow? When I look at it, it is a law. Why it is called a law? These are given facts. These are given facts which functions whether I like it or not, I agree or I disagree. Similarly, there are biological laws, there are physiological law, there are psychological laws. Life is governed by a law. All these laws can be brought under one word law. Are you able to follow? Are you following what I'm saying? All these laws can be brought into one word, and that one word is order. There is an order. Order, not a command. Please understand it. Order means all the laws combined makes it an effective, makes it an order, an orderliness. So you can call it as physical order, biological order, physiological order, psychological order. இப்பெல்லாம் அப்படிலாம் we don't use all. இப்பெல்லாம் epistemological order. இல்லையா? Because we're all more into analysis now, more into and yeah, epistemology and newspaper. One whole one whole section of the newspaper, one whole paper, one whole side of the paper. Analysis. After a point, you are confused. Now comes the beauty. Now comes the beauty. Within this order, you have a freedom. Beautiful it is, the way that they say. You know? Now, within this order, there is the freedom. So that freedom itself becomes part of the freedom itself becomes part of the order. When we say that freedom itself has become part of the order, Abdillah, what goes away? Fate, destiny, எல்லாம் முன்னாடியே எழுதி வச்சிட்டாங்க சார். All goes away. Why? Because we have understood that freedom itself is part of the order. With that, you exercise that freedom to inquire about God. You exercise that freedom to inquire about God. And when you do this inquiry about God, what happens? You understand a few things they are saying about God. What is it? God is eternal, all-pervading, infinite. The deep unmanifest ocean manifesting as waves on the surface. God is the one, consciousness, pure, immaculate, appearing as manifold, conditioned, conscious beings, like the sun above, appearing as several reflections below. All these examples you should remember, because just now we finished all these analogies in Atmabodha. But then we are so detached also, no? If we finish a book, we get detached from the book also. Especially in biology, I used to be like that. 10 o'clock the exam starts. 9 o'clock I will know everything. 1 o'clock the exam is over. I come out of the room. Everything is gone. Appa. Yeah. உங்ககிட்ட டியூஷன் படிக்கிற நாங்களும் உங்களை மாதிரி தான் சார் இருக்கும். If you are like that, we studying tuition under you also will be like that only. What? Once one text is over, we completely, that text is erased. But one thing doesn't get erased. What is that one thing that doesn't get erased? பிரச்சனைக்கு என்ன சொல்யூஷன் அது சொல்லுங்க. பிரச்சனைக்கு சொல்யூஷன் சொல்லுங்க. மிச்சதெல்லாம் we'll see later. Enquiry, pramana, pramana. Who asked all that? Yeah, who asked all that? All that we are asking for is, yeah, I am feeling suicidal. I am feeling depressed. I am suffering. What is the solution for that? Yeah. 9 நவகிரகத்தை 9 வருஷம் டெய்லி சுத்தினே இருந்தோம். All problems will get sorted out. In 9 years you will get so used to it. No, அவ்வளவுதான். That's no problem get sorted out. In that movie, that fellow will say, no, the joke. 50 வயசு வரைக்கும் தான் சார் உங்களுக்கு கஷ்டம். That fellow will say. Up to 50 years only you will go through problems in life. Abbada, from the 51st year you will be free. Yeah? No. 50 years of you living with it, you would have gotten so used to it. அவ்வளவுதான். பழகிடும் அதுவே he'll say. Yeah. You would have gotten used to it so much that you will never have. What is the role of God? It talks about everything. The role of God is like petrol and the car. The faculty of knowing is given. You just have to use your freedom and exercise it. It's not the faculty of knowing is going to come to you. The faculty of knowing is with which you are born. That power, that faculty of knowing, you are given. You have to exercise the freedom to use it. All are given. The sense organs are given, the mind is given, the intellect is given. So much is given that all that you need to do is what? So much is given. All that you need to do is what? Make use of it rightly. Make use of it rightly. It is given. Make use of it rightly. When you make use of it rightly, under the guidance, you will discover something. What is that discovery? You will discover something. Discovery means that which is there already. No. They talk about the creator and the discoverer. No, who's the discoverer? That which is there already, you discover. So when you use the right instrument under the proper guidance, exercising your freedom, you will discover something. What will you discover? What will you discover? Aham Brahma Asmi. God is not something that can be found externally. God is not something that can be created externally. God is not something that can be perceived, seen, felt, understood by the intellect as an external object. Just as the river merges with the ocean, you become God. So, thesis on God starts with the inquiry about God and concludes. Thesis on God starts with the inquiry about God and ends with the conclusion. What is the conclusion? You are God. So, you can call it as thesis on God, or you can call it as thesis on yourself. So, thesis on God, within brackets, potungo. Then the book becomes very meaningful. At least I'm doing that. And he said, thesis on God. Within myself, I said, within brackets. Thesis on God means thesis on yourself. It's not thesis about God. It is thesis about yourself, because for you are God. Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. ஸ்வேதகேதுன்ற பேர் எடுத்துட்டு உங்க பேர் போட்டுக்கலாங்க இல்லையா? தத்துவமசி சங்கர், தத்துவமசி வெங்கட், தத்துவமசி அன்ஷு, தத்துவமசி சைலேஷ், தத்துவமசி மனோகர். வேண்டாம் இல்லையா? பார்த்தாலே இல்லையா, தத்துவமசி மனோகர் வேண்டாம். அவரை கொஞ்சம் கீப்பிங் அவே. தத்துவமசி வெங்கடாச்சலம் ஓகே, பார்க்கலாம். ரொம்ப கேள்வி கேட்காம இருந்தாருன்னா இல்லையா, if he is not bugging with too much of questions, we will consider putting him in that category. விஜயரங்கன் சேவெல்லாம் பண்ணிட்டு நீட்டா வந்தாருன்னா தத்துவமசி, இல்லைன்னா ராட்சசோஸ்மிய. What is this Tattvamasi? Thesis on God. Thesis on God is thesis about one's own self. Is the introduction. Thesis on God is thesis on yourself. It's not about the God as a third entity. It is about God as your own. It's about God as in your own self.
Who is God equal? Who am I?
It's about you. Enquiry about God is enquiry about you. The enquiry about God is enquiry about you. That's why it's called Atma Vichara. And the word Atma means God, and it as well as means you. That's why it's called Atma Vichara. Enquiry about Atma. And Atma, the word Atma means two. It means God and it means you also. So it means enquiry about God and enquiry about you. With this, the preface part of it is over. And then we would look at the chapter breakup in the next class. What I will do, we will quickly see the chapter breakup. There are about 8 chapters. So I will quickly go through the chapter breakup, and then we would read chapter by. Preface is over. We would see all this. We would see this. We would go through this contents chapter by chapter, and we see how one flows into the other, and then we would go to chapter by. Yes, ma. Yes, Chandralekha. கொஞ்சம் unmute பண்ணிடுங்க.
Yes. Sir, two questions. One, I don't understand this Tarka, Nyaya, and Mimamsa. Mimamsa is a philosophy, no, of Buddhist.
Mimamsa means analysis.
And Tarka is argument.
Tarka is logic.
Logic.
Tarka is logic. Nyaya is reason. Mimamsa is analysis. So logic, reason, analysis.
Another question, sir. In this concept of God, you read Adi Shankara, Atma Bodha, Shivanyana, and Dakshinamurti Slokam. Ellathliyum he talks about the high philosophy.
Correct.
But then he also comes up with Saundarya Lagri, Kadagadara, etc. So which means that normal our idea of God and all that comes in that. That if you pray to him, he has a form. So how do we reconcile? There must be some logic to it.
Yes, there is a logic. There is a logic that we will be discussing in detail in chapter 3, manifest and unmanifest. There is a whole lot of a chapter where we are going to discuss the God and the gods. There will be discussing this. It is coming. The manifest and the unmanifest, the God and the gods, how they are all symbolic and how they are all essential. And yet, we need to understand what are they, what is the logic and reason for which it is being brought. We are going to study that. Next, in the contents level, I am going to discuss all that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Then we will know where it stands. It's not mere superstition. It's not just superstition. It is not just some fantasies. It has a role and yet it has a limitation to it also. So we'll be seeing both. In chapter 3, the common factor to become God, God and gods, singular and plural, the form, the formless. When I go there, that would be a very, very relevant topic where we'll be studying a lot about the symbolism also. And all these are symbolic. Saundarya Lagari is symbolic. The hymns are symbolic. The gods and goddesses, the murtis, the forms that we have are all symbolic. It is useful, it is necessary, it is relevant, and then we'll talk about the rituals also. Originally, I thought, since you have brought up this question, I'm saying this. Originally, I thought we will do the book Symbolism of Hindu Gods and Rituals. First, I thought we'll do that book, Symbolism. Then I thought, okay, in thesis on, when you do this thesis on God, the symbolism also is fully into that, where there are chapters dedicated to it. Then I thought, okay, we will do that because this is something that we never touch upon. In Bhagavad Gita, he never touches upon. In Atma Bodha, he never touches upon. But in this book, he has touched upon it directly. So we would do that. Is it okay, ma? But to answer you straight away today, they are not mythological, they are not superstitions, they are not just to satisfy the child. It is not that. It has a very deep scientific meaning. Not the hymn. I will not be going into any particular hymn per se. We'll be discussing the very idea of symbolisms, the very idea of rituals, and the very idea of gods in plural. We would see. Is it okay, ma? Yeah. Yeah. With this, we conclude for today. No questions. No. So next week, we would start with the contents. Contents meaning the breakup of the 8 chapters and how it flows into the, how one flows into the other. And then we would go into reading chapter by chapter. And how we will do is, in every chapter, we will read a topic. One topic we will read, we will elaborate the topic, and then we will go to the next topic. That's how we will be reading the book. The chapter, topic, we would read one topic, try to understand the topic, and then we would read the next topic and we would go into the next topic. That's how we would. With this, we conclude for today.